Hello there and welcome to this Biology Mind A-Level tutorial on cell division and the cell cycle. So in our last lesson we learned about chromosomes and their structure. So just to recap that, you now understand that chromosomes are large structures of DNA, that each copy of a chromosome is called a chromatid, and that telomeres are disposable nucleotide sequences at the ends of a chromosome, which protects the genes within that chromosome from being shortened during replication. And we also discussed how humans are diploid organisms and that we have 23 different chromosomes which come in pairs. So our overall chromosome number is 23 times 2, which is 46. So without further ado, let's crack on with this tutorial. So we have 3 key learning objectives. Number 1, an overview of the cell cycle. Number 2, to talk about interphase and mitosis. And number 3, to talk about why we need cell division. So let's get started with the cell cycle. So this is the regulated sequence of events that occur during cell division as one parent cell divides to form 2 genetically identical daughter cells. So it can be broken down into 3 phases, which we'll talk about now. So number 1, the first phase is interphase. Now interphase itself is composed of its own 3 phases. So all of this part of the cell cycle is interphase, but it can be split up into 3 phases. The S phase is the phase where DNA is replicated. And the G phases are the production phases where new proteins and organelles are made. Because if you think about it, our parent cell is going to divide into 2 daughter cells. Yes, those daughter cells need DNA, but they also need other things. They need cytoplasm, they need organelles, they need proteins, enzymes. So before our parent cell divides and makes those daughter cells, it needs to replicate its own organelles and provide its daughter cells with those. So that is this stage of interphase, all of this. And then we enter mitosis, where the nucleus divides and chromatids separate. And the final bit of the cell cycle is cytokinesis, which is where the cytoplasm divides to form 2 daughter cells from a parent cell. So these are our 3 phases. Interphase, which is composed of that S phase, then the G phase, and which is composed itself of G1 and G2. Mitosis, and then cytokinesis. So make a note of those 3 stages of the cell cycle. Now, as we discussed, there are 3 phases of interphase. So these are G1, S, and G2. And each phase has unique events that occur. So in G1, the cell grows and it makes a new set of organelles and proteins, which can be, oops, I've spelled organelles wrong, organelles, and proteins that can be provided to the daughter cells, which, remember, as I said earlier, is really important because those daughter cells need their own organelles and proteins. And then number 2 is the S phase, so the synthesis phase, and this is where cellular DNA is replicated and the 2 daughter cells get 1 of each set of DNA. And in this phase, genetic material is also checked at this phase. Okay, then in G2, cell growth continues and there is synthesis of special proteins in preparation for mitosis. So overall, at the end of interphase, we've got our duplicated set of DNA ready there for our daughter cells, and we've got some new proteins and organelles that have been made. Oops, sorry, I skipped forward a little bit too fast there. So then, after interphase, we then have mitosis. So during interphase, the cell function continues normally. And then when the cell is ready, it enters mitosis. So during mitosis, the cell splits its DNA and organelles into 2 identical daughter cells. So mitosis is next. So let's break this down. So we've gone from our parent cell here to our 2 daughter cells over here. And you can see that the cell cycle has started and the first stage of our cell cycle has gone ahead, so that interphase stage. And you can see that our chromosomes have been replicated exactly as we said. That's what happens in the S phase of interphase. Now, obviously, this is a simplified diagram. So in a normal cell, a normal human cell, we will have chromosomes 1 down to 23. And at each chromosome, so for every chromosome, we have 2 of every chromosome. So let's say this is chromosome 1 here and this is chromosome 2. You can see that we have 2 of each. And so this would be the same from number 1 to number 23. So this would be the same from number 1 to number 23. And you can see that we have pairs of chromosomes, and remember that's because one is inherited from mum, so it's maternal chromosome, and one is the paternal chromosome inherited from dad. Now in interphase, we're going to make a copy of each one of these chromosomes. So within chromosome 2, for example, we call the maternal chromosome and the paternal chromosome homologous chromosomes to each other. They're now going to duplicate, so now those duplications will be homologous chromosomes to each other. Now, eukaryotic cells divide to produce 2 daughter cells, and after this stage of mitosis, which remember is our second phase of our cell cycle, we are going to split this copied DNA between our daughter cells equally. And I really want you to notice how those daughter nuclei have identical copies of DNA to their parent cell. So the daughter nuclei are direct replicas of the parent nuclei. So that's really, really important. So this is really unique to mitosis, which is one type of cell division. And mitosis occurs in cells called somatic cells. So somatic cells are just a general term for the majority of dividing cells in an organism. Now, there are 2 main types of cell division. Number 1, mitosis, and number 2, meiosis. So as I said, mitosis is that replication or the splitting of a parent cell into 2 identical daughter cells. Now, meiosis is slightly different. So meiosis is a process that occurs only in cells known as gametes. So gametes are the sperm and the egg. So the sperm in males and the egg in females, which play a role in sexual reproduction. So we will talk a lot more about meiosis in a later tutorial, just like this set of tutorials where we're going to be talking about mitosis. So we'll shelve meiosis for now and we'll come back to that later. So for now, let's just focus on mitosis. So why do we need mitosis? Why do we need cell division? Well, cell division has multiple functions and we're going to go through them one by one. So number 1 is probably the most obvious. When we divide cells, we make more and more cells. So therefore, it allows for growth. That is how organisms grow. It's how you and me grow. So multicellular organisms grow in size by increasing the number of cells in their bodies through mitosis. Number 2, replacement of dead cells. So any cells that die are replaced by identical cells, again produced through mitosis. Number 3, repair of tissues by cell replacement. So in eukaryotes, most structures which have become damaged can be replaced by new daughter cells. And number 4, that cell division is also really important in asexual reproduction, which remember is not happening in humans, but in other organisms they might reproduce asexually through mitosis, and the resulting offspring will be genetically identical to the parents, because remember our parent cell is splitting in mitosis to produce 2 genetically identical daughter cells, identical to each other as well as identical to the parents. I say parents plural, but by that I mean the parent cell, okay? So the daughter cells are identical to each other, but they're also identical to our parent cell. Okay, so that is our tutorial complete for today. Well done for following through with this. We have discussed the cell cycle in complete detail now and the importance of cell division. In the next tutorial, we'll go and have a look at mitosis in even more detail. Well done for following through. I'll see you for the next tutorial.